In just over 20 years, an insect smaller than a coin has wiped out more than 150 million trees across the United States, more than the total number of trees in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago combined. No wildfires, no storms, just tiny creatures gnawing away life from within the trunks. To stop the disaster from spreading, the US made an unprecedented decision, releasing millions of parasitic wasps from Russia into the forests, not to pollinate, but to save an entire ecosystem. So what is this insect? How can such a tiny creature devastate an entire continent? And what did those parasitic wasps do to reverse the fate of America's forests? All will be revealed in this video by Terran Works. You know, one of the most dangerous forest destroyers in the US is actually named after a gemstone. As beautiful as a jewel and as destructive as a plague, it's the emerald ash borer. This insect originates from East Asia, where it has existed for thousands of years without causing any major disasters. There, native ash trees evolved alongside the beetle, forming a delicate but stable balance. But when global trade began accelerating at an unprecedented pace in the late 20th century, the emerald ash borer found the perfect path into North America. Wood used for pallets and shipping crates. Beneath the surface of untreated wood, its eggs and larvae could remain dormant for months, crossing oceans without leaving a trace. No warnings, no timely quarantine detections, and no one knows exactly which shipment, which port, or when the invader first set foot on American soil. It wasn't until the summer of 2002 in the Detroit area of Michigan that people noticed something unusual. Healthy ash trees began dying off for no clear reason. As scientists traced the cause, the truth finally came to light. The emerald ash borer had been here for years, silently multiplying, spreading, and encountering no natural resistance. From that moment on, a tiny creature from Asia became the trigger for one of the greatest ecological disasters in the history of North America's forests. In just a few years, this beetle spread throughout the Midwest and quickly advanced to the east coast of the United States at a speed that left forestry experts helpless. By 2025, the emerald ash borer had been confirmed in 36 US states and 5 Canadian provinces, covering nearly the entire natural range of North American ash trees. So why, in an entire forest, are only ash trees targeted? This isn't a coincidence. The emerald ash borer is programmed to recognize only one type of tree. It detects the specific scent of ash, and its larvae can only survive within ash wood. And once an ash tree is identified, the real danger begins. Adult beetles are almost invisible among the leaves, short-lived and leaving few traces. But with just one breeding season, dozens of eggs are hidden deep beneath the bark. From there, the tree begins to silently decline from the inside, out of sight. By the time signs become visible, thinning canopies, weakening branches, and premature leaf drop, it's already too late. Within just 2 to 3 years, a once healthy ash tree can die standing, turning from a symbol of greenery into a lifeless trunk in the forest or the city. The scale of destruction quickly surpassed all expectations. In Michigan alone, about 40 million ash trees have vanished, leaving cities like Toledo and Cleveland almost entirely stripped of their urban tree belts. You might wonder, if it's the same species of ash, why is North America so defenseless? The deeper reason is that North American ash trees never evolved alongside this beetle. As a result, they can't recognize the threat and don't possess effective defense mechanisms. Meanwhile, in Asia, ash trees have coexisted with the emerald ash borer for thousands of years, developing thicker bark and natural compounds that can suppress larvae. So when this foreign virus invaded American forests, the outcome was almost predetermined. In many areas, the mortality rate for ash trees approached 99%. Before it was devastated on a large scale, the ash tree was a familiar part of the American landscape. Not as prominent as the oak or as iconic as the maple, the ash quietly existed everywhere, lining streets, along rivers, in parks, farms, and natural forests. Before the arrival of the emerald ash borer, North America had over 8 billion ash trees. In many Midwestern and Northeastern states, ash once made up 20 to 30% of urban trees, thanks to its straight trunk, wide canopy, fast growth, and strong cold resistance. Ecologically, the ash tree played the role of a silent pillar. Its roots helped stabilize riverbanks and wetlands, reducing erosion. Its canopy provided shade, regulated temperature, and supported habitats for hundreds of insect, bird, and small mammal species. Economically and culturally, ash wood was prized for being lightweight, flexible, and durable, used in baseball bats, flooring, and furniture. For many indigenous communities around the Great Lakes, especially black ash, the tree is deeply tied to traditional crafts and long-standing cultural memories. So when ash trees began to fall, what was lost wasn't just greenery, but an entire ecological link, a valuable economic resource, and a part of North America's identity. This battle was never just about a single insect. When ash trees began dying in large numbers and the scale of the disaster could no longer be ignored, humans were forced to step in. The first response came from cities and forestry agencies, aiming to minimize immediate risks. Severely infested trees were urgently cut down, not to save the forest, but to prevent falling branches from damaging homes, cars, and power lines. At the same time, quarantine measures were enforced, banning the transport of ash firewood and lumber out of infested areas to slow the beetles' spread. In forests, managers experimented with trap strategies. Some ash trees were deliberately weakened to lure adult beetles to lay eggs, then cut down and destroyed along with the larvae inside. In urban areas, high-value ash trees were injected directly with insecticides, helping them survive for a few more years. However, these methods were expensive and only protected individual trees. As the beetle continued to spread faster than expected, it became clear that these early efforts were just buying time, not reversing the unfolding crisis. When tree removal became nothing more than a cleanup effort, when quarantines couldn't keep up with the speed of spread, and when chemicals could only save trees one by one, the scientific community had to face a hard truth. Humans couldn't solve this crisis on their own. And in that moment of deadlock, a simple question arose. If this beetle came from Asia, why hasn't a similar disaster happened in its native habitat? The answer wasn't found in technology, but in nature. In the Russian Far East, where ash trees have coexisted with the emerald ash borer for thousands of years, scientists discovered a tiny creature, Spathius gallinae, a nearly invisible parasitic wasp, but the most dangerous natural enemy of the beetle's larvae. From that discovery came one of the boldest decisions in the history of American forestry, to import and release millions of parasitic wasps from Russia into North American forests. But as soon as the proposal was made, concerns immediately followed. History has warned time and again that introducing a foreign species into a new ecosystem can bring unpredictable consequences, sometimes even causing biological disasters of their own. That precedent meant scientists couldn't afford to overlook the risks. Many ecologists asked, even if carefully selected, can we be certain this wasp would only target the emerald ash borer? Or might it escape its original role and begin attacking native insect species? The debate, therefore, wasn't only about pest control effectiveness, but also about the long-term consequences of human intervention. And the answer didn't come in a single forest season, nor did it appear right after the first waves of wasp releases. It took years of field monitoring before scientists began to notice small but clear changes in North America's ash forests. In areas where parasitic wasps were released, the rate of emerald ash borer larvae being parasitized gradually increased, ranging from 20% to 50%, depending on environmental conditions. That number wasn't enough to wipe out the invader, but it was enough to halt its outbreak and pull the beetle population back from uncontrollable growth. More importantly, after over a decade of monitoring, there's been no evidence that the parasitic wasps are attacking native insect species. This shows that the once controversial method didn't create a new disaster, but is slowly restoring a lost ecological link, steadily, patiently, and in the way nature was always meant to work. The story of the ash tree isn't an isolated case. When ecologists look more closely at America's forests, they realize that its collapse was only the beginning. In the eastern US, another silent disaster had been unfolding for decades, this time targeting the eastern hemlock. If ash trees are pillars of urban and forest landscapes, then hemlocks are the backbone of mountain ecosystems and stream valleys. With their year-round green canopies, hemlocks provide deep shade, stabilize stream temperatures, and protect habitats for salmon, trout, and countless insect species. But starting in the mid-20th century, a tiny organism disrupted that balance, the hemlock woolly adelgid, a sap-sucking insect native to Japan. Instead of boring into the wood, they attach at the base of the needles, drain the tree's nutrients, and cover themselves in a waxy, snow-like coating, making the initial threat nearly invisible. Just 3 to 5 years after infestation, a hemlock tree can weaken and die standing. In parts of the Appalachian Mountains, over 80% of hemlock forests have vanished, leading to rising stream temperatures and a decline in aquatic life. In the face of this disaster, the US didn't opt for mass logging or long-term chemical use. Instead, the primary solution was biological control, introducing Laricobius nigrinus, a native predatory beetle that feeds specifically on the hemlock woolly adelgid. Active in winter, these beetles help suppress the pest population and offer a chance of survival for new generations of hemlock trees. If ash and hemlock trees collapse due to invaders from the outside, then for the pine forests of the northwestern US, the threat comes from a native resident, the mountain pine beetle. The mountain pine beetle has coexisted with North American pine forests for tens of thousands of years. The disaster only began when the environment around it started to change. In the past, deep, cold winters regularly killed off most beetles before they could reproduce, allowing pine forests to maintain a fragile balance. But since the late 20th century, as winters have grown warmer, that natural control mechanism has begun to disappear. More beetles survive the cold, reproduce faster, and spread farther, pushing their populations beyond what forests can regulate on their own. The result has been a continent-scale disaster. In just a few decades, mountain pine beetles have killed more than 40 million hectares of pine forest across the US and Canada. Once green mountainsides have become ghost forests of standing dead trees, highly flammable and structurally unstable. Faced with a threat rooted in climate imbalance, there's no simple savior species. The most widely used strategy in the US is proactive forest management, selectively harvesting dead and weakened trees, thinning forests, restoring more diverse forest structures, and replanting pine species better suited to the new climate. In many Western states, controlled burns are also used to reduce wildfire risk and disrupt the beetle's life cycle, not to wipe them out completely, but to help forests adapt to a new ecological balance. You know, when viewed from above, a pine forest can change color, like a living map. And it's not autumn. In many areas of the western United States and Canada, forests that were once deep green year-round are beginning to turn pale yellow, then reddish-brown, blotching the mountainsides like spreading burn marks. But the frightening part is, there's no fire. This color change is a sign of a silent process happening inside each tree. When mountain pine beetles attack, the tree's resin flow is cut off and it stops transporting water and nutrients. The pine needles lose moisture, change color, and stiffen. But the trunk remains standing, upright in the forest. From the ground, the disaster can be hard to notice. But from above, the patches of dead forest stand out clearly, stretching all the way to the horizon. It's not just a change in color, but a signal that an ecosystem is gradually slipping into a dangerous state, where the forest is no longer green, but hasn't yet disappeared entirely. The stories of the ash, hemlock, and pine forests reveal a hard truth. Even the most seemingly resilient forests can collapse from a small shift in the natural balance. And the solution isn't always cutting-edge technology or human power, but understanding the ecosystem and restoring the missing links. North America's forests are still in the process of recovery, slow and fragile. And the remaining question is not just whether we can save the forests, but whether we can learn the lesson in time. What do you think about this issue? Leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next journeys with Terran Works.